Stephanie here. Welcome to another episode of Sewing with Stephanie. Today I'm showing you how to create a very basic peplum drape. What's really amazing about this technique is that not only can you create a peplum or a skater skirt or a very full skirt, but you can also use this technique to create ruffles in seam lines down the body, on shoulders, really any seam. You'll learn the technique on how to pin properly and let the fabric push and guide the ruffle. Before we get started, please make sure you hit subscribe below and click like so that other people can find this tutorial. Let's get started. Draping a peplum starts like any other drape. You want a decent sized piece of fabric that is at least 6 inches longer than the length of either the skirt or the peplum that you would like to drape, and then mark off the straight grain close to the center front. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by pinning the straight grain right at that center front. I'm going to take it about halfway up or maybe a little less and pin that center front waist on the straight grain, and then also maybe down a few inches. Okay, so some part of my video just cut out, so I'm going to redo part of the drape. So you may be a little confused as to why the size of my piece of fabric keeps changing, but we have pinned the center front at the waist and a few inches down from the waist. I'm going to do a shorter peplum length. And then you smooth over from the side seam. I'm going to just smooth over about 1 inch for this. Really secure that pin. It can be tough if you have lots of padding on your mannequin to get into the mannequin, but really dig in there. And then you're going to let your fabric kind of fall and drape and create that volume. And if you like that, great. And let's trim away a little bit. Cut right to the base of the pin, as we always do, to free up any tension. Make sure you really like that fullness. And then repeat over. So you have your fullness right here at that first pin mark. So let's smooth over again on the waist, maybe another inch. Then let's cut to that mark. And drop the fabric again and let it rotate. So it might get a little, if you put your folds too close together, it could get a little muddled, but once you kind of play with it, you can see where it's going. And then all of a sudden I have 2 folds, which is perfect, but this one's maybe a little bigger than that first. So I'm gonna reduce it a little and then repeat. You really just continue this process so you get all the way to either the side or the back, depending on how large of a piece of muslin you have or the design. I challenge you to think creatively with peplums and skater skirts. They don't have to be the same front to back, side to side. So you can get creative. You're the designer. There you go. So we've got 3 folds, and then I'm probably going to run out of fabric before I get to the end. But you just continue that same process all the way around until you have a drape that you love, creating the volume and the shape that you want. And from here, I would release that center front to see if you like that drape and how even it is. You can always play with that volume. One thing to think about is that if you do mark off at the side seam and you connect it to a peplum in the back, you want to make sure you're adding the same amount of fullness to the back of the front. Because if you add more fullness to the front than the back, you'll find that the side seam kicks because you have gotten it off of the grain. The 2 grain lines aren't connected at the same point. So what I would recommend is trying to use a very large piece of muslin to get that drape all the way around the back. Or you can connect them and just make sure that they are on the same grain. So that means if one of them's on a 45-inch grain, the other side seam's on a 45-inch grain. You don't want one to then be on the straight grain connecting to the 45, if that makes sense. And so I would just mark this off. Let's trim it up just so you can see what it would look like as a true peplum length. I cut the length off of mine just so I can get a better idea of what that peplum really looks like, how much it sticks out. But that's something you can play with. Again, you can really use the same technique for longer skirts. You can use this technique over really any part of the body. This is how you create ruffles. But creating it on the waistline is one of the easiest ways to master that technique. I encourage you to experiment with where those pins are. If they're closer together, it's going to create more small ruffles. If they're further away, then you can have the opportunity for bigger flared shapes. You can also be very strategic about those pins and just do one on the 2 princess lines in the front and one on the 2 princess lines in the back, and have a very sort of angular flow to the skirt as well. So have fun, experiment. Once you get this basic technique, you can create ruffles all over the body, and it's very, very fun. And I really hope that this helped you guys today. I hope you liked this tutorial on how to create a very basic peplum drape. Once you've mastered this technique, you can create ruffles all over the body, on top of your sleeves, in seam lines cascading down the body. Using this exact same technique of pinning, clipping to the pin, and then letting the fabric fall and move, you're able to create a lot of really beautiful movement for your designs. Thank you so much for following along today with another episode of Sewing with Stephanie. See you guys around soon.